comes up. Sorry, there is a knock at his door. He opens the door and finds the friend of his father standing there. The friend said that I have learned that now you have started seeking solace in the Bible, and therefore I want to give you the Bible which your father brought for you that day.
Oh.
The boy took the Bible inside, and as he went through the pages, he came to the last page where there was a key, a rusted key, and a note from his father which read, "My son, in your life you will become a great driver. You will drive cars, you will drive computers, you will drive great gadgets. But the most important thing which a man needs is something that drives him. And in order to drive you, I give you this source of inspiration, the Bible. It will give you ideas, thoughts, systems which will enrich your life and make you a great driver." My dear friends, if you intend to be a great practitioner, allow the ideas to drive you. And for that, the CP committee is always involved to ensure that we give you best of the programs, best of the topics, from traditional practice to the latest practice. We at CP committee promise that whatever issues you doubt us, please write to us and we shall immediately come back. Now over to Mr. Ajay Vaidya for the second session. We can take question answers from 12:45 onwards. Any questions we can immediately take them and see that all doubts are put to rest. Over to Mr. Wadhwa. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Nanda, and what an inspiring story. What an inspiring story. Now, we have some constraint of time, and therefore I would request our experts to be a little more brief, and so that we are able to do justice to all the questions, all the issues that we have. Now, coming to the procedure, I would like Mr. Ghia to offer your views on three aspects. Very often the problem is delay in filing appeals. For whatever reason, there may be a delay of 1 day, there may be a delay of 100 days, there may be a delay of 1 year. What do you do in such a circumstance? Then, what is the best way of drafting an appeal? Should it be very elaborate? Should it be point-wise? Or should it, what sort of issue should it bring up at the appeal drafting stage itself? And then most importantly, where I'd like Mr. G.D. Agarwal to help us, because he gets these sort of issues day in, day out, are the rules regarding the paper book and the type and the manner in which the paper book ought to be compiled. What is the utility of the paper book, and what sort of an impact does it have on the authority which is sitting on the other side? How best to make an impact? And sir, this I would like you to react both from the CIT Bill's perspective and also from the ITAT's perspective. In both the cases, the perspective is a little different. That is the third. And finally, on adjournments. Is adjournment our right? Should we, what are the circumstances under which the adjournment should be given, can be given, should be asked for, how should one go about it? So these are the basic 4 procedural aspects where I'd like your views before we move further into the other technical issues. Mr. Ghia, please.
Ajay ji, the first question you asked me to reply is with reference to delay. The time limits with reference to filing the appeal, whether in the context of 246A or whether in the context of 248, are very, very objective. And therefore, even though there is a delay of 1 day, then delay will have to be condoned by the CITA or tribunal. And till the condonation happens, the appeal will not be heard. In general, one can say that there is no stage of admission in appeal proceedings. But when there is a delay in filing the appeal, the stage of admission of the appeal will certainly come after the delay is condoned. And if the delay is condoned, the order of condonation will have to be recorded in writing. Coming to the aspect of delay, that there can be many circumstances. Factual, first, that delay has happened due to various contingencies which were not, normal, which were abnormal, and therefore the loan delay and condonation has somewhat developed like this with the help of many Supreme Court decisions, that ultimately by delaying the appeal, the SSC does not benefit.
Yes.
The SSC in reality suffers, and this is known to the authorities as well as to the honorable members also. And therefore, in general, there cannot be any mala fides on the part of the SSC to delay. Once bona fides are there, but they are not sufficient. The other part of the law which is also finally developed is that when the time limits are there, they are for adherence. And each day's delay has to be explained. In that context, each day's delay to be explained, but not so pedantically. In an example that the main partner of the partnership firm, SSE, was hospitalized, and it is not probably necessary on his part that after he comes out of the hospital, the very next day he has to file the appeal. For the reason that once the cause of the delay, that he was hospitalized, is established, then reasonable time period would be given to him to prepare himself for filing the appeal. So both these aspects are to be balanced in the context of delay. Firstly, there should not be delay, and secondly, if delay is there, condonation is generally given. Then there are many practical and legal reasons also that many a times, because all the tribunal decisions are against me, so in SSE I take a view, there is no point in filing the appeal. I do not file the appeal, and down the line, High Court, jurisdictional High Court decision comes, which is in contradiction to the tribunal decisions and which is in my favor. And particularly the Supreme Court, if it gives the verdict, Supreme Court does not make the law. At the same time, Supreme Court interprets the law, and therefore that interpretation dates back to the enactment of the law. In such circumstances and many other examples, there are genuine reasons for delay also. In those contexts, I will also have a kind of a right that delay was for such legal reasons, for such legal conceptions, and therefore now I am filing the appeal, and these are the reasons. Once the application for condonation of delay is put up before the learned CITA or Honorable Tribunal, then they have to consider the application on merits. They have to adjudicate on the applications objectively on merits, and then delay may be condoned. If CITA does not condone the delay, then also it is an appealable matter that the Honorable or Tribunal will decide whether CITA's decision to condone the delay was justifiable or not. Second issue,
I thought let us have, can we have, sir, on the condonation aspect, if you can react, sir. Then we go on to the next.
I entirely agree with Mr. Ghia, and that in the delay, the length of delay is though relevant but not conclusive. There may be cases where the delay of years may be condoned, and there may be another case when the delay of few days may not be condoned. I can give an example. In one case before us, there was delay of more than 10 years. That was a appeal against the penalty under section 271(1)(c). But the SSE was pursuing his remedy under section 273A. He had filed an application for condonation for waiver of the penalty before the CIT, and CIT did not dispose of his application for more than 10 years, and then ultimately he filed appeal before the ITAT, and we agreed that yes, he was pursuing an alternate remedy, and it was only because of the department's inaction now he is forced to come to the ITAT and will condone the delay. And I have also seen a case where there was a delay of say 30 or 40 days. It was not condoned because SSE was pleading some ground, but ultimately it was found that Form 36 was signed in time, and taxes, the appeal fee was paid in time. So it was found by the tribunal that the delay was only because of negligence. Even after the preparation of the appeal, the SSE did not file the appeal. So it would always be, as he rightly said, that delay condonation would be decided on merit. You will have to justify the reason why there was a delay.
Well, thank you, sir. Now quickly, just to summarize, if there is a delay, because that's an endemic problem. We find delays day in, day out. You have to establish sufficient cause or reasonable cause. And one judgment which you must always cite and always remember is Collector of Land. 167 ITR 471 Supreme Court. 167 ITR 471 Supreme Court. Here, I just cannot forget this paragraph where they say, where substantive justice is pitted against technical consideration, it is the cause of substantive justice which will always prevail. Meaning thereby that if there are technicalities as against substantive justice, give substantive justice. If there is some plausible reason which he gives, condone it. But your main objective should be to give substantive justice. This is collector land exercise. This can be used for various other aspects. This judgment has such far-reaching consequences. Now, Mr. Ghia, something about paper book, something about drafting, something about judgment. If quickly you could just apprise.
And just to add one point, that as far as delay is there, whether delay is there or not can also be many times a question of law, with reference to particularly Rule 46 of the income tax rules, read with section 282, because both of them in a manner provides that the notice of demand or the order has to be served upon the SSC or a person authorized in this behalf by the SSC, and there the rules of Code of Civil Procedure apply, and therefore if the SSC personally has not received the assessment order or the notice of demand, or nobody on his behalf authorized also has not received, then there can be a legal point also on the part of the SSC that I did not receive the order, and then certainly the burden of proof will shift upon the department to establish that the rule of law was followed. Coming to the aspects of drafting, as Ajay ji rightly mentioned, the drafting is certainly a very integral part of drafting of appeals, and there also one should be very articulate in presenting his points of facts and the law, and there should be logical correlation between the facts of the case with the applicable laws, and the thing should in a very simple and lucid manner should come out. The drafting aspects will be more involved when one is drafting, for example, statement of facts. As far as statements of facts are, I can submit my view for your consideration, that as the nomenclature indicates, one should be confined to the facts only. The statement of facts can be as comprehensive as one wants, but at the same time should not turn out to be an argument. One should refrain from writing that the learned AO took a wrong view or something like that. At the most, one can write that the SSC claimed something on the reasoning like this, and one can then say that the learned AO took the view like this on this reasoning. So both the reasonings can come out without attributing any wrongness or rightness on anybody's part. Then comes the issue of grounds of appeal. Grounds of appeal, particularly at CITA level and also at tribunal level, that it is known probably to everybody that the grounds of appeal also should not be argumentative, should not be narrative. They should be as concise and precise as possible. Sometimes one finds that the ground is becoming somewhat lengthy considering the facts of the case. Then one may also take the recourse of decomposing the ground into more grounds so that the ground per se becomes precise, and then there is no limitation on the number of grounds at the same time. One should be also cautious to see that the grounds may be as many as one wants, but they should not become overlapping also. Otherwise, one may be directed that you rewrite your grounds and then come back either to before the CITA or Honorable Tribunal. When it comes to making submissions, one has ample scope at the learned CITA to file the written submissions. In the written submissions, one can refer to all the papers and documents and evidences which were there at the AO level. And one can cite the laws also. If one is citing ITD or ITR, then one need not cite one need not give the full judgment, as they are the accepted citations. Other citations one is advised to give full judgments copy also. As far as written submissions are concerned, one should also take care to ensure that all those papers which were actually submitted before the AO only can be submitted in the written submissions. If one wants to submit the additional evidences, that will probably take Ajay ji when you raise the question with reference to additional evidences. At the Honorable Tribunal level, sir, there are specific rules made with reference to how the paper book should be prepared, and indexing, serial number of the page, etc. Every page should be signed by the appellant or his authorized representative, and more importantly, the paper book must be submitted before the Honorable Tribunal at least one day before the date of hearing, with a proof that the same paper book was delivered to the learned DR before at least a week. The time period can be condoned also, but if the other side objects that the paper book was delivered to me not before 1 week but before a few days only, then probably Honorable Tribunal may grant adjournment, because once a party objects that I did not receive the paper book in time, then there may be a kind of aberration if the matter is proceeded with. As far as paper books are also concerned, the rules are very clearly providing, the law is also finely developed, that in paper book also all those evidences and statements, papers, documents which were already at the lower authorities can only be submitted in the paper book. If one wants to submit the additional evidences, then additional evidences can be submitted only with the, can be admitted only by the honorable tribunal, and for that one will have to file a separate paper book setting out the reasons while additional evidences are necessary. And honorable tribunal will take a view whether additional evidences are to be admitted, and honorable tribunal will pass a reasoned order after, of course, giving an opportunity to the other side. But in the context of additional evidences, once again one will find a case that if the additional evidences are very, very material, then honorable tribunal may send back the case to the concerned authorities also for verification of the evidences. Then in the context of paper book, there can be supplementary paper book also, although under the law it is provided that a supplementary paper book can be submitted only with the permission of the honorable tribunal. But if the evidences contained are all those which were earlier submitted to the law authorities, generally honorable tribunal will allow the supplementary evidences in the form of supplementary paper book also. There are three kinds of such paper books: the paper book, the supplementary paper book, and supplementary with reference to additional evidences.
No, fine.
Sir,
Thank you. Thank you. Very comprehensive reply. Agarwal Sahab, before you react, one very important fact. You see, you have been a champion of one theory as far as I know. Incidentally, Ghia Sahab, Agarwal Sahab has always been maintaining that you should not clutter the judicial system with paper. He is very, very concerned about conservation of documents. So that is one issue. Secondly, the other issue which Agarwal Sahab, I'd like you to react is that let us say if I file 500 papers, I refer to only 40. Can I not that later on say, and let's say if the order comes where certain papers have not been considered, can I not say that they were a part of the record and therefore your order is defective, you have not looked into all these papers, and therefore kindly take a look at them since I've already filed them and they are a part of evidence. Now that if sir, you could react quickly to this.
Yes. So far other aspect of the paper book are concerned, they are all given in details in the IT/AT rules, how it is to be prepared, how it is to be signed, which paper can be included. Now coming to the aspect of the bulky paper book, it has been our experience that in many cases very heavy paper book running into hundreds or thousands of the papers are filed and only the few papers are referred at the time of hearing. One aspect is that by filing such bulky paper book, we are wasting the paper, and that ultimately is a national wastage. Paper is, and then another aspect is, therefore, so far first aspect is concerned, it would be my suggestion to file the paper book including only those papers which you intend to refer at the time of hearing. Second aspect, as Mr. Wadhwa said, कि if in a paper book say 500 pages are filed and only the 50 pages are referred at the time of hearing, tribunal considered those 50 pages, can the SSC file the MA referring to the another paper of 450 pages saying that कि those aspects have not been considered. In my view, only the papers which are referred at the time of hearing are considered by the IT/AT, and if certain paper though placed in the paper book but not referred at the time of hearing of the appeal by the tribunal will not constitute the apparent mistake by the IT/AT, even if those papers were not considered, because those were never referred at the time of argument.
Fine. I think that sums it up. Now, I am now going into Ms. Ghia Sahab, an issue which in itself can take 2 hours. But the beauty would be to have the response in 2 minutes. Now, the issue is, you are before the Commissioner Appeal. Before the appeal, you are challenging an addition of ₹1 lakh under Section 68. But the Commissioner Appeal is very smart. He calls for the files of the assessing officer and starts to make a reassessment. He says, all right, now give me details regarding your expenses. These have not been considered. Give me details of the incomes, the sales. These have not been considered in the assessment order. I will now make a comprehensive assessment in the appeal proceedings. Now, so therefore, two questions emanate. One, at that stage, when the CIT appeal becomes very uncomfortable, can I run away? Can I say, Sahab, I am not coming. Thank you very much. I am withdrawing my appeal. I don't want your indulgence. I am happy with whatever addition that was made. That is one. Two, what is the scope of the authority and power of the CIT appeal? Can he look into those things? Can he enhance my income? Let's say if I go on an addition of 1 lakh, can he convert that addition into a crore? And can he also look into other aspects and make additions? Now, there, I know it's a very, very, very lengthy question, but let's see, Ghia Sahab, if we can have it very quickly, because there are 10 more questions which I wanted to respond to.
Your emphasis on time constraint, I am fully appreciating. Ajay ji, the first question which comes out is whether what are the CIT's powers. So under the law, particularly under section 250 subsection 4, the powers of the CIT are coextensive with those of the AO. So whatever AO could have done at the time of assessment and whatever AO could have done but did not do, the CITA can do now also. And therefore, as you rightly said, that one may have the feeling of running away, that why did I file the appeal if I was to be investigated about these aspects, and my income, rather than reducing, I was seeking the relief, but my income can now enhance also. So the powers of the CITA certainly include the power of enhancement also, only with a limitation. Of course, that also, a settled position of law, that limitation being that CITA cannot find out a totally new source of income. So CITA has all the powers to enhance the income subject to this limitation. Then the question will arise that can I withdraw the appeal? In fact, there is no power to withdraw the appeal once it has been filed by the SSC, either at the CITA level or at the tribunal level. Like there is no power of withdrawal after the appeal, the valid appeal has been filed. In fact, the authority or the honorable tribunal also per se does not have a power to dismiss the appeal after the valid appeal has been filed, because the law provides that they have to decide the appeal on merits on the basis of whatever papers are available with the CITA or with the honorable tribunal. Then when it comes to powers of the CITA, only one power has been withdrawn since June 2001, and that is setting aside the assessment order, because there were frequent setting aside of the assessment order. So CITA's that power is now not available. Of course, he has the power to annul the assessment, but not to set aside the assessment. And many times CITA generally believes that certain things have not been examined properly by the AO. In that context, he does not find it necessary that he should do the examination part, verification at his stage, and therefore he finds it more proper that he will direct the AO that to give the remand report by examining particular aspects, and after the report comes, that the CITA proceedings then once again resume. This is my brief submission, sir.
Perfect. So I think I can summarize by saying that yes, the CIT appeal does have the power of enhancement. He cannot find a new source of income. He cannot bring out what the AO has not considered at all. Just to give you a quick example, let us say the assessing officer makes a GP addition. He says, I reject your books of account and I estimate your profit, and here is the profit. Now the CIT appeal in one case of Union Tire, he said, all right, you have made the GP addition. I will also make an addition of unexplained investment, because you had turnover outside the books of account. You must have had some capital to make that turnover. Therefore, I will estimate that also. Now, it was held by the Honorable Delhi High Court that tantamounts to bringing out a new source of income which has not been considered by the assessing officer. Therefore, that is where he cannot venture into. But if the assessing officer has already considered that issue, applied his mind, or there is something to show which he has already applied his mind to, that is where the enhancement can take place. Now, another very important issue which I would, yes, like you to respond both vis-a-vis the commissioner appeal as well as the tribunal, because then we would have handled both. And the issue is regarding additional evidence. Now, the problem happens, you go and you go to the assessing officer, the assessment is made in a hurry, or for whatever reason you are not able to file certain details. They go to the CIT appeal, And before the CIT appeal, you say, I have these additional details. If I follow these, file these, then my case can be better argued. I stand on a much better footing. Please admit it. So can he admit it? What sort of evidence can he admit? And whether it is our right to have the evidence admitted? And then what happens if you have some more evidence left which you want to file before the tribunal once the CIT appeal decides? So if you could take up both the issues quickly, perhaps we do justice to this question.
Sir, before I come to that, just one statement which was necessary with reference to enhancement. Although CIT has the power to enhance the income, the Honorable Tribunal does not have the power to enhance, yes. And therefore the SSC will never be in a worse position than what he was before coming to the Tribunal. The Honorable Tribunal cannot enhance the income would mean that Honorable Tribunal cannot enhance the assessed income by the AO as enhanced by the CITA. Further, it cannot be enhanced. And what Tribunal cannot do directly, Tribunal cannot do indirectly also. So even in a set-aside order, the AO cannot further increase the income which was earlier the income of the SSC. Coming to Ajayji, the question about additional evidences. As you rightly gave a hint that ultimately the appellate proceedings are continuation of the assessment proceedings. When one files an appeal as an aggrieved SSC, one is taking a view, one is pleading that the learned AO or learned CITA erred in deciding certain things, and therefore the orders were erroneous. That is the contention of the appellant. Now the appellant, if he has to contend that the orders were erroneous, why? Because I did not file certain evidences, and now I want to file those evidences and I want to say that the orders were erroneous, it will not be a good or logical step, and therefore per se the additional evidences are not allowable at the CITA as well as at the tribunal level. But